Previously on Lost.
This thing starts in the city of Wuhan. And there's like literally more people in Wuhan than like all of Canada. Not looking up if that's true.
People don't really know where it came from. The incubation period is between basically 10 and 14 days.
Which is a long fucking time. You could be walking around with it incubating inside of you for 2 weeks.
And not even have symptoms. Coronavirus spreads through both direct and indirect contact.
Could it be that China is actually trying to create a super army of scientists out of this containment measure?
You killed Naomi!
Bum, 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 bum.
I've corona. Do you like that? So the thing is, I don't have. So I got sick last Wednesday because a certain producer decided to shake my hand as a show of fealty and was covered in germs. And I did that whole Chapo show sick as a dog.
You were really sick. And I feel really bad because before the Chapo show, Brace was like, please, can you get me medicine?
She got me Sudafed.
So I did. Well, I went super mom style on you. Mm-hmm. That didn't sound right.
Yeah. It was amazing. It was amazing. I've never had milk of that quality before.
Oh my God.
It was. Oh
my God.
So
okay.
I'm normally lactose
Stop
intolerant.
it.
All right. No, go ahead.
Jesus.
Yeah. Exactly. This is what I was saying. You got me Sudafed.
You're disgusting. Not just but I did get you the really good nasal spray that you like.
Mm-hmm, that was good too.
Okay, but then I did get Brace the street legal Sudafed. I had to go up to the pharmacy and give them my name and address. They had to make sure I wasn't cooking meth or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
You're in the meth. I think I'm in the meth database. I've been arrested for felony meth possession before, so.
I'm not in any database except for probably the FBI
and the one in my heart.
Oh.
Yeah, it has every woman who I've ever podcasted with.
One. Anyway, so then Brace got crazy from the Sudafed. You were not well.
I was unwell.
It made it worse, maybe.
Yeah, I've done a lot of uppers in my life, probably more than most people in the world, just because most people haven't done them. But I've done a lot, and I never enjoyed them. And I can't say that record is. I still don't enjoy them.
Yeah, you were a little shaky and funny.
I was feeling a little crazy. Yeah, but able to pull it off.
Yeah, I think it went well.
Mm-hmm.
Although, actually, we had some feedback from a listener that was not pleased with what we said.
Was it Ro Khanna?
No, David Frum.
David Frum, yes.
Actually, now who is that now? Grace?
So David Frum is George W. Bush's former speechwriter, and actually a more dishonorable job. He is, I believe, the editor of The Atlantic. Oof. It's funny. His actual name is David Cum because I came in his mouth a bunch of times. In fact, filled it like a reservoir.
Yeah, he came up with the excess of evil.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's calling us the excess of evil.
Yeah, he said it was fucked up that I said I fucked Elizabeth Warren. You know what I think is fucked up? When women don't call you back.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome.
Going down with the sickness.
What is that?
You don't know what that is? Wait, are you fucking for real? You know what down
You're
with the
literally
sickness
whispering.
Is? Yeah, the song has whispers in it. We'll just continue.
It's that
what
one?
Is the W? What is
it's that
who?
one.
I don't understand why there's all the notes.
Brace, stop. Just stop.
Okay.
Welcome to TrueAnon.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Liz.
My name is Dr. Brace.
Oh, yes. Dr. Brace is here. Mm-hmm. We're joined, of course, by young Chomsky.
My faithful nurse. But he's my nurse. Not like he's a nurse made for me. Not
Your
like
wet nurse.
He's my wet nurse. Well, okay, if you want to call him that, sure. I don't know what that makes you then.
Shut it down. Okay. One thing before we get to the episode today.
Yes.
We have a live show coming up for our listeners in the Bay Area.
Yes.
We have been invited to a crossover live podcast episode with, drumroll,
Radio Warner.
Yes. Now I am like totally freaking out about
I'm
this.
starstruck.
I am.
Yeah.
I am the biggest fan of The Exile. We had Yasha Levine on. I'm the biggest fan of Warner. I feel like that. Have you seen that photo of LeBron on Instagram where he's like, I'm smiling through it. I can't believe my life.
No, I don't know that photo.
That's good.
Instagram's
Anyway,
for girls.
that's what I feel like.
Fellas, we're all on Mastodon. We on April 22nd, 2 days after the birthday of Adolf Hitler. The
You almost said
anniversary.
Jesus Christ.
I did almost say Jesus Christ. I don't know, to a Jew, there's not too much difference. Not too much daylight between the two.
Okay.
So on April 22nd at 7:30 p.m. at the Verdi Club, Verdi Club, don't know how to spell that one, in San Francisco, California, you have Radio Warner Live featuring TrueAnon.
Yes. Mark Ames.
And John Dolan, a.k.a. Gary Brecher, the Warnerd.
Live in person, hanging out with us.
And it's selling out. It has been selling like hotcakes. These guys are flying in for the show. This is John Dolan's triumphant return. Napoleon leaving Elba, coming to the mainland, 100 days, whatever. He's back in the Bay.
Back at it, baby.
And I, if you wish to join him as a phalanx armed guard, sort of like Gaddafi's Amazonian guard, except you'll probably be a dude if you're going to this, just statistically.
Hey, ladies
But
is welcome
probably,
too.
that doesn't mean definitely. Probably. Ladies, I have a guest list of 85 women that I can do. So if you'd like to come, email me at gmail.shit.
Jesus. Wait, cut that. That's literally my email. Okay, on with the show.
Yeah, well, speaking of on with the show, we are also coming to New York next week. Those shows are sold out. Do not give me coronavirus. So what I usually do when I meet a fan is I kiss you deeply with my mouth on any place of your choosing on your body. I mean, I'm talking shoulders, face, nipple, whatever. Dudes only. I will not be doing that this show.
We're doing the whole show in mask.
Yes, in masks. It's kind of, actually, it's crazy.
But we don't have we don't have surgical masks. We actually have those bird masks with the long noses.
In fact, the whole audience will be wearing those as well.
Yes.
And there will
But then no clothes.
Not a robe in sight. And we're doing it at the Bloomberg news offices.
Yes.
And we're doing it on June 6, 66. That wasn't funny.
That wasn't funny. You're just confusing people. New York, we're going to see you in a week.
Yeah.
Also Philly.
Yeah, well, that's not. I refuse to believe that show is real.
Okay.
So coronavirus has swept the nation.
People have a fever. Literally because they have coronavirus.
And they're dying. Oh, sorry.
Ugh. Okay, we're getting serious now.
This is fucked.
Okay, so
I shouldn't say that. This might be fucked.
Okay. Pause. Mm-hmm. Before Dr. Brace gets into his Dr. Brace stuff.
Yes.
I just want to say that we, faithful listeners know, we did record an episode about coronavirus previously.
We did.
But circumstances have changed. Mm-hmm. I don't know when we did that, a couple weeks ago.
Who knows?
But I haven't gone back and listened. We got a lot of stuff has changed. But I will say, towards the end of the episode, we talked about possible economic shocks to be expected. And we're going to be talking later in the pod to friend of the show, Alexander Skaggs, about how some of those things are happening right now.
Yes. Yeah. No, this is our economic correspondent will be joining us.
Yes.
I just like to say that.
I know you like a correspondent.
I like how
it's cute. We have
broad correspondents, 100% dames.
Oh, always.
Always. No fellas. I don't want a
Dimes
competition.
and dames.
Yeah.
But I will say, once we've, we can trust you, you've been elevated from gumshoe to correspondent.
Exactly.
Okay, but coronavirus, so...
Well, speaking of elevated, so... So remember when there was the death rate, they were like, damn, this is 2%. And people were like, that's fucked up. That's a lot more than the flu. Well,
no, yeah.
I think we should start out the episode by saying that has changed.
That has changed. So the WHO, which you are calling Hugh.
Oh, that's what that. So I thought there was just WHO written all over this. Like you couldn't figure out who any of these quotes were attributed to. I'm just fucking kidding. We have many pages of notes. I've read them all. I even wrote some of them, and I know WHO stands for WHO.
You almost just said WHO stands for who?
WHO stands for who?
It stands for the World Health Organization.
Yes.
Okay, so they have, as of, I think it was March 3rd.
Yes.
So just a couple days ago, they announced that the new recorded mortality rate for coronavirus, this is globally, by the way, not specific to the United States.
Yeah.
But globally is now 3.4%, which is far more deadly than the flu.
Yeah, the flu I think kills about less than 1%.
Yes.
So it's way worse. And coronavirus has been spreading. So the thing is, I'll be honest with you, I've read a lot about the coronavirus in the past, month, but specifically the past couple weeks. It seems like when you get it, of course, not everyone's symptomatic. About 80% of cases are not very serious, maybe mimicking the regular flu or not even that bad. 20% are much more serious, and then a smaller fraction of those are fatal.
Yes.
3.4%.
Yes.
And a lot of that has to do with viral pneumonia. You get pneumonia, and then you die from complications from that. Now, I've had walking pneumonia.
It's very serious.
Yeah, that was not that bad, and I had it for a year before I realized what was going on. I just thought I was dying.
Oh my God, Brace.
Hey.
This is a problem, men. Go to the doctor. Oh my God.
I
all need girlfriends so that you'll just fucking call the doctor when you're sick.
I went to the doctor to get my Siemens, to get my Merchant Marines physical checked out.
Yeah, okay.
And it's like this big Goomba, and he's like, brother, you got walking man's pneumonia. And I was like,
walking man?
He's called it walking man's pneumonia. And he gave me a little albuterol, cleared that motherfucker right up.
God. No, but seriously, so the big issue with complications with coronavirus, because remember, it's a lung, it gets in your lungs, is basically, infections, caused by or, amplified by the virus.
Yeah.
So like you say, pneumonia, bronchitis, different infections through the body. And that's really where stuff starts to get weird, and why, the populations that are particularly high risk are, the elderly,
yes,
the immunocompromised. But I should say, anyone with underlying medical issues is going to be at a higher risk than probably, what I'm guessing are the demographics of our listener, which would probably be
diabetics.
Well, I was going to say that they're probably less than, under 30. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Who cares? But, we should say, diabetes is an underlying condition, and that affects a big population of the United States.
Yeah, people in my family have it. I look like I have. I'm just kidding. It is not great. And I think a big problem here is that, when you are hospitalized for this, because a lot of these cases will involve hospitalization, we don't have, first of all, an unlimited supply of hospital beds, but also a lot of cases, ventilators are needed.
Right.
And we definitely don't have enough ventilators to basically cover everyone that is projected to be covered. And there's a lot of varying sort of projections about how many people could get this and it overall, and then what the numbers inside of that look like. Yeah,
I think basically, again, because it's been relatively, I think it's safe to say that a lot of this is being underreported in the United States.
Absolutely,
for various, I am going to say, political reasons, both locally, statewide, and nationally. We don't really, but then also the nature of the virus and the, infection, how it's being transmitted, and then also the incubation period, which we mentioned on the previous show, is anywhere between 14 and 30 days.
Yep.
It's really hard to get good numbers on what exactly is happening. And so Brace dropped his phone.
It's the phone I used to time the episodes with, so don't give me shit about it.
But so, there's been a lot of viral threads on Twitter that I'm hesitant to even quote from or direct people to, because you just don't know you just don't want to cause a panic or anything like that.
Exactly,
But
yeah.
basically holds that, like, if these doubling rates, which would be, the rate at which people are getting infected
Yeah.
and mortality rates hold, what you're looking at, you're looking at in the millions of recorded infections
like 100 million.
a month and a half.
Yes. Yeah, you are.
And possibly the fatality numbers reaching hundreds of thousands just in the United States.
Yeah. And again, we don't know what's going to happen with that.
Obviously.
But it is, so today is, what day is it today? The 7th? It's the 7th, March
Yes.
7th at 4:30 a.m. And yesterday, there was one confirmed case in San Francisco that was community transmission. That means they had gotten it from somebody else in the community, not necessarily, they hadn't been to China or been,
Right.
They weren't one of these people who had gotten it early.
Or a cruise ship. They didn't have any contact.
Yeah, and now today there are 8 confirmed cases. I have a feeling, and that is confirmed cases, they have been tested for coronavirus using the coronavirus test.
Yes.
Essentially, there's no way to know how many people have it. It went from, it was in 3 states, and then next day I think it was in 21 states. Now it's in over 25. I'm sure it's probably in every state.
Yeah. And again, okay, so I want to pause here because, we're not trying to start a panic with our listeners.
No.
We're, we're trying to be as sober as possible.
Yeah.
And I don't mean, you know what I mean, in terms of how we're talking about it.
Yeah.
But I have seen a lot of stuff just, anecdotally, on my social media, particularly on Instagram, which is a different kind of beast than Twitter, where it's a lot of people saying, there's no reason to freak out. There's this is just the flu. This is just a sickness,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And it's that's half true, but also half not true.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why it's half not true is, one, because there is actually barely any information being told to us, which is very scary. But also because the nature of pandemics, we're going to be facing possibly school closures, quarantines. It's just very different than the regular flu. And by the way, we were talking about this before we started recording. The regular flu sucks, too.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it easier.
It's funny. I've had it so many, not flu, but flu-like symptoms due to certain destructive behaviors of my life.
Yes.
And so it's to me, it's it sucks, but you get it every 6 months.
I haven't had the flu since I was a kid.
Yeah. I think I get sick kind of a lot because I'm Jewish, but it's if everyone, that's the thing is we might all get this at the same time.
Well, that
which
would
is
be
not usually how the flu works. People get the flu, but not 100 million people.
Right.
And so it's different than what we've been dealing with before. You said something about school closures, though. So, I think to give us kind of a glimpse of, what could happen with that. Could you go into that a little bit?
Well, I will say, so, it came out today that, a couple cities in Italy are going full quarantine, which, respect, I guess. I don't know.
Quarantini, they call it.
Yeah. But, the outbreak in northern Italy is very serious. And so, the governments there are taking some pretty serious measures. Brace and I were talking, and, I have no idea if they're going to be doing that in the United States.
Some schools have closed in San Francisco already.
No, but I just mean cities going full quarantine.
Yeah.
I think the nature of the United States makes that very difficult. Also, our leadership are a bunch of fucking morons that don't take any public power seriously.
This is why I voted for the 5-Star Party America.
Yes, La Lega. No. But so again, so schools are closing.
Yep.
They're going to start advising churches probably to close. I would not be surprised. Movie theaters, like we mentioned before, South by Southwest canceled. Big events are canceling. But the thing about the schools canceling is very interesting to me because, these aren't, they're short-term measures, but they actually have long-lasting effects.
Yeah.
And what's worrisome is and I know this sounds stupid, but you're going to have all these kids basically not able to keep up with schoolwork. Parents are going to have to stay home to take care of their kids. Those parents have to work.
They'll figure out probably telecommuting for school, but it's going to be a second,
Yeah, we just don't have any of that infrastructure in place at all. And the places that we do are, of course, going to be private schools where there's a richer population.
Yep.
God knows what the public schools are going to do.
I mean, I imagine most of them are just going to be pretty much ghost towns for at least a month.
Yeah, so it's just, these things have kind of like snowball effects.
Yeah.
Like, for example, there is a large population, there was a story in the New York Times about this, a large population of children in America that rely on, public schools for meals. Right?
Yeah.
So school lunches, not just school lunches, and you hear a lot about school lunch programs, but also breakfast. So we're talking about child poverty rates skyrocketing, child hunger rates skyrocketing. Even in short term, that's going to have long lasting effects.
Well, and you talked about parents having to stay home too. I mean, a lot of parents, there's, as many of you know, no free childcare really, and definitely not on a federal level in America. And school sort of serves that purpose, especially very early school. Now parents are going to have to stay home. And when parents have to stay home, I mean, I don't know about you. I've never had a job where I could work from home. Every job I've had I've been mostly a florist, worked at a gym, worked at a brewery, etc. You can't do any of those jobs from home. And that's true for a lot of people. So you're going to come up to sort of an impasse there. Like, what do you do in that situation?
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer to that.
Here it says, in this country, more than 2/3 of the 31 million students who regularly eat school lunch are economically dependent upon the meal. And low-income kids similarly constitute the majority of 14.6 million who eat school breakfast and the 1.3 million who receive an after-school supper.
That is a lot.
It's a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And, there have been some cases at schools. I believe there was one in, I want to say Winchester, but I don't have that right in front of me. And the good thing is that, kids are a relatively low risk group in terms of their immune systems, but they can be basically what you would kind of call a disease vector, where because they're carrying it, and so many, you can't really quarantine
Liz's
kids.
new book out on Verso.
Oh my God, it totally sounds like a Verso fucking book.
Go on.
But, kids can just be carriers that then transmit the disease elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, poses a real problem.
Yeah, I mean, especially if there are older generations in the house as well. I mean, that's the thing is older people die at much higher rate. I mean, that is the majority of the deaths have been from older people. That first sort of outbreak in Washington at the old folks home in King County. I know, it's devastating. I was reading about it the other day. But it's terrifying because in a lot of places, multiple generations live in one house.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, especially when they're, poor.
Yeah. And that's the thing is it's so in San Francisco, they declared a state of emergency here, like they've declared in a lot of places, and they've said don't if you're old or if you're a at risk group for getting this and dying from it, try not to go outside. Well, there's 10,000 people in San Francisco alone, a city of 800,000 people, probably more like 1 million now, that sleep outside every night. We have 10,000 homeless people all over California. I mean, all that shit you see on Fox News about California, by the way, is correct.
Yeah, that's right.
There are shanty towns everywhere. The streets are covered in shit because there is no fucking place. I mean, there are places to put people, but the housing market's so financialized that there's basically no incentive to give people homes if they're not rich. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. If an outbreak of corona gets out among the homeless in San Francisco, I mean, I can imagine there will be a lot more. I mean, there is already extremely high anti-homeless sentiment from a certain class of people in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I imagine that will not only skyrocket, but we'll probably see some increased
Yeah, and I
pressure on
want to say
politicians.
too, not that this makes any difference, but it's there's families living on the street too here.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
there is that it's just a bunch of rabble-rousers,
Not
crazy
at all,
people.
no.
That's not, how...
I know two people, just off the top of my head, that I've been friends with, I've known for a long time, that are just homeless.
Yeah, that's just not how extreme inequality manifests, right?
No.
And if it were to if there were an outbreak, like you said, in that population, it would be devastating.
Yeah. And it could kill a lot of people.
Yeah, and I want to, the city and the state, like, I just think yeah. The federal government, of course, is insane.
Yeah.
And we can talk a little bit about their response, which has been completely...
fucking bonkers.
Yeah, it's totally bonkers. But also, like, the cities and the states have a lot of power that they can exercise when it comes to public health emergencies. Like, for example, Gavin Newsom, our fucking shiny ass mayor.
And Yashar Ali's former boss.
He has already declared that he's going to waive all insurance fees for coronavirus testing. It's like, okay, but hey, question for the mayor. Why can't you do that for everything related to these hospital stays?
Exactly.
Oh, wait, he could.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like, the state and even the cities, like the mayors, under public health emergencies, so many powers open up that they can exercise. And, you saw some of that in response, particularly in San Francisco and even in New York during the AIDS crisis, because Reagan, everyone knows the Reagan administration just basically fucking ignored that epidemic. And particularly in San Francisco and New York, where outbreaks were quite serious, city officials had to rely on what powers they could, kind of take on, and communities as well, to try and contain as much as they could. But it's really difficult to do without the kind of power of the purse of the federal government.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
And, I don't need to get into the AIDS crisis. That stuff makes me too upset.
Yeah. I don't like, they're putting, so Dean Preston, city councilman here,
Respect.
I don't even want to say friend of the pod because I don't want to get him in trouble.
No.
But admired by the pod. He is putting a moratorium, or trying to pass a moratorium on evictions during this. And like that I have a feeling that will go through. But think of every other city in America where almost none of that won't happen most other places. And so like during this whole thing, the economy will keep chugging along, and the way that most people sort of deal with the economy is through things like evictions.
Right.
And like going to the, whatever. I mean, I was listening to this thing about like maybe I was reading it. It was a friend's Facebook page, and he was asking people in his town how this had affected them. It's a town in Washington. And one guy was like, well, I volunteer at a food bank for people with AIDS, and no one shows up.
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, people going to food banks are people who need to use food banks.
Right.
And so now these people are either, spending money that they can't really afford to spend on food at a grocery store, or they're more likely not going out at all because people with HIV, AIDS are immunocompromised.
Absolutely.
And that is a huge target group for this.
And also, I should say, like, it's one thing for, the Trump admin to advise people possibly stay home from work, but that's like not a luxury that a lot of people can afford in this country.
Yeah.
And
that's also not what the Trump admin told people to go to work.
No, like at one point they were kind of signaling that. Yeah. But like, that's kind of the good. I mean, I think Cuomo said that. I'm sure London Breed has said that. You know. But again, almost. I'll say this. It's one of my favorite statistics. Nearly 80% of all new jobs added after what we call the Great Recession were in precariat labor. Now, the thing about that is the way that those, or what we call a gig economy, the way those jobs work is you only get paid if you literally show up to work, which is usually in your car, or making deliveries, or
so you're
whatever.
In most cases, you're not an employee, meaning you don't have the rights of an employee.
Exactly.
Sick leave, some accruing vacation time,
any kind of like possible telecommuting, anything like that.
I mean, most people can't. And think about this too.
Of course, most people can't telecommute. You know what I mean?
You can't. Most people don't. Yeah, exactly. But like,
most people don't work in an office.
Think about this too. In San Francisco, a lot of our like really poor people live in SROs, single room occupancy hotels, basically like almost like dormitories, where there's one or more people to a room. A room is just one room, no kitchen, no bathroom, shared bathroom at the end of the hall. And how are those people supposed to be quarantined or self-quarantined? They can't cook.
No.
They have to use the same bathroom. It's like it's almost an impossibility. And the federal government's response to this has been fucking, like we were saying, fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like if so like to compare it to South Korea. In South Korea, they are going door to door and testing every single person to see if they have coronavirus. Whether they exhibit symptoms or have come into contact with people or anything or not. They're testing everybody. And they've gotten mortality rates down to 0.6%. That does not look like it will be the same case in America.
It doesn't look like they're really testing anyone at all. I mean, I don't...
No, they're not. The testing thing is, we would have to, the testing thing is fucking absurd.
I mean, I don't... There's absolutely zero reason why the United States cannot deploy the Federal Reserve to mandatory test.
Oh, the Army Reserve or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did I say? The Federal Reserve?
Yeah, I was like, damn. I thought we ended
National,
that.
National Guard, excuse me.
Yeah. We need to deploy the Federal Reserve to smash Ron Paul's mountain fortress.
Oh my God. That's a weird slip. Anyway, there's absolutely no reason why, the National Guard can't be deployed in every state, in every city to test everyone.
Yeah.
Literally everyone.
Yeah.
It's just like it's really upsetting. And, I kind of wish that, I question why more politicians aren't kind of raising some red flags here and not really speaking out. And I have the unfortunate feeling that we're going to have to rely on whistleblowers, particularly within the health industry. There was a nurse in Northern California from Kaiser who came out, saying the practices going on in the hospital were not okay. There was no testing. She wasn't tested.
Yep.
And we're going to have to rely on brave whistleblowers to really get a lot of information.
I mean, that's how we heard about the standard. I mean, that's when I heard about what they did at Travis Air Force Base, where they just had federal health workers working with no protective gear alongside people in fucking hazmat suits.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, we're fucked.
And we should mention, rich people are preparing.
Oh yeah. That's the thing is they are, so there's been a spate of articles lately about how rich people are essentially, not only are they just calling random doctors or fancy doctors and looking for a cure, they're signing up for prestige health. I didn't know about health concierges. Did you know about this? Mm-mm. I've seen one, I think, downtown, but I don't really understand. I think it's an urgent care, but they are fancier. I don't really get exactly what they do, and I don't care to know, but they're doing stuff for these people, and they have these insane. All right, so one of these masks, which I actually have. No, I don't. The Urban Air Mask costs $70. Check this out. This is from their website. The Urban Air Mask 2.0 introduces a whole new level of protection, breathability, and design, by combining cutting-edge filter technology with timeless Scandinavian design. The Urban Air Mask 2.0 offers an outstanding performance and comfort to combat harmful particles in the air. It's sold at the SF MoMA design store, and on their website, it is sold out. They're flying all over the place. I'm sure that a lot of these sort of cabins in Aspen or in the Caribbean, Little St. James Island, these things will be filling up with rich people fleeing. Yeah, there's also all these little little cottage industry of rich prepper gear popping up, and not just your run of the mill REI crap, but kits that have everything that you need. Yeah, the pussy way to do it. Yeah, I like to be flexible in my loadout. Well, I do. Before we get to talking to Alexandra about the financial markets, because a lot of people have been asking us about the recession, about the market, what the hell is going on. I do kind of want to talk a little bit about the TrueAnon prep vibe. So a lot of people may have gathered at this point that Liz is a prepper. Real deal prepper. She doesn't have some of the things, the accoutrements that are necessary to prep, like myself. But no, you prep. What have you been getting? I would never claim the title of prepper because I respect that label too much. Okay. No, but I just, jokes aside, I do, Brace and I really did want to talk about this for our listeners because we do really care about you guys, or at least I do. And it's time to get a little serious about,
preparing for possibly some very weird scenarios over the next couple months.
So the number one thing is, I know all of you are on bipolar medication. The number one thing to do that, like, I always, so you should get a month's supply of your medication if possible, beyond the one that you currently
So
get.
I've told this to a couple friends, and, you know, you should call your doctor today, if you're listening to this, and see if they can call in a 1 to 2 month supply of whatever medication you need. The same goes for, you know, if you have family that is on medication, you should make sure that they also have 1 to 2 months, because we might be seeing some weird shortages and you don't want to be left without medication that you need.
The other thing too is food.
Yes. Okay. So
This one's a little trickier.
this is a little tricky, particularly given like storage for a lot of people. Now, you don't
myself,
need to be like hoarder. Ideally, what you want to have at home is like, I would say 3 weeks to a month.
Yep. And that sounds like a lot.
It sounds like a lot, but all, you know, shelf stable. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah, don't get shit that like, so I made the mistake of purchasing $4,000 worth of clams for this. And apparently that is not. I've been making this thing called cuckoo clams for the past 3 weeks. They've gone bad long ago. But
Wait, what's in that?
Oh my god! So it's at Tommaso's, my favorite restaurant. We should go sometime. It's
Oh.
really, we should.
Oh, you were serious?
Oh, I haven't been making this actually, but it's a really good dish.
Oh.
It's just like a garlicky clam kind of thing. I love it.
Okay. I thought you were making a joke.
I was making a joke.
Oh.
I haven't been making cuckoo clams. No, I fucking stocked up on like shit that I'm not gonna cook right now.
Yes, which is what, Brace?
So I got a lot of pasta. Mm-hmm. I got some frozen food for some protein, some some meat, etc. Like a bunch of chicken, a lot of cans of soup.
Yes. Chilies are good.
Chilies are good.
Beans.
I did not
Rice.
get much in the way of vegetables, although I should go pick up some frozen vegetables after tonight, perhaps after we record.
Yeah.
But yeah, rice is really good.
Yeah, you just want to get pantry and stuff you can put in the freezer. You don't have to worry about like the power going out and water.
Yeah, and if you can't do like 3 weeks or a month, get 2 weeks at least, because that is like the general amount of time people have to self-quarantine for.
Yeah, and basically the reason why you guys want to get this is not because this is going to be like martial law or Jade Helm.
End of the world, whatever.
Although I don't want to rule it out.
Yeah.
But because, you know, if this virus is spreading in your city, you're not going to want to go to the grocery store.
Exactly.
You're not going to want to have contact with people and like surfaces. Like you aren't going to literally want to touch the like shopping cart.
Yeah, because that's the thing is this virus can stay on surfaces.
Yes.
It is not
for up to 9 days, I believe.
It is not the main like vector of transmission. That would be my penis. But it is, you didn't like that one, did you?
I didn't. That's
yeah,
gross.
She's making a face at me. I'm so sorry. No, it is not the main vector of transmission, but it is one. So be careful about that. I mean, the thing is, like, yeah, it's just so, you have to be so fucking careful that I feel like there's almost no way, like, everyone's going to get it.
Yeah.
And so this is really, like, I bought this stuff, so when, if and inshallah that I will not, if I have to self-quarantine, I will be less miserable.
Yes. Oatmeal is good.
Yes.
Also, nut milk is a great option because it's shelf stable.
Yeah, I got 2 things of soy milk. Just fucking kidding. Almond milk. I'm not trying to grow some titties while I'm in there. I got a bunch of cold meds too.
Okay, yeah,
and
let's
get
talk about
meds that
this.
reduce your fever. So I got a bunch. I got everything from Theraflu, which is not for everybody and may not be it's pretty good for this, but the best stuff is just like acetaminophen, anything that is a fever reducer.
Yeah, because that stuff's good. What's the thing called with the O? Oscillentium, or however you say it. It's like a vitamin.
Colloidal silver?
No. Have you seen the guy who turned himself blue?
Oh, my dad dated a girl who turned herself orange from eating carrots. Go on.
Anyway,
serious.
I can't remember what it is. But so in addition to fever reducers, which you want to get, also I would stock up on vitamins.
Duct tape.
Good to have Tylenol, Advil.
Yep.
Both things. Aspirin. Dayquil, NyQuil, Theraflu, like we mentioned. And I'm going to plug my favorite cold reducer.
No, bleep this part out.
No, didn't you get it?
I haven't gotten it yet.
Oh.
I ordered it, I haven't got it yet.
It's
I
called...
haven't got it yet. Why am I talking like that? I got Corona. Go on.
It's called Dr. Singha's Mustard Bath. And I put it in with Epsom salts, and it helps you sweat everything out. Read the directions. Go exactly by the directions. You have to take a cold shower afterwards and then get right in bed and go to sleep. But it works every time.
Alternatively, if you do want to get sweaty from another sort of activity, you could look up pictures of me on Google image search. And that tends to work for many young men and women.
Okay, one last thing besides medicine stuff, but that's very serious. Actually, two last things. If you can, I would keep some cash at home.
Yeah.
So just, you want small bills, $5, $10, denominations, whatever amount you're comfortable with. Keep it in a safe place, but just, you don't, again, you want to like reduce what you're touching, who like, you're interacting with, and you never know what's going to happen with anything. That's always a good thing to keep at home.
Exactly. A lot of people have been talking about how you shouldn't buy masks. That is probably true. Because we are, as we'll find out in the next segment, not going to have a lot of those in America.
Yeah, they're basically gone. Also, most hand sanitizer is gone. An alternative, if you can find it, is isopropyl, however you say that, alcohol.
That was gone from Target when I went there.
Is it? Yep. Okay.
But it's been at liquor stores. That's the thing, is a lot of the stuff have been gone from the big chain stores that I've been to, but liquor stores still have like a ton of toilet paper and stuff like that. I mean, I don't think we're about to run out of toilet paper.
Yeah, that's very weird.
You can also, literally, I'm not kidding about this, people get mad at me for this, you can fucking just use the sink and or take a shower.
Yeah, like, just wash your hands.
That's like not the main thing you should worry about.
Okay.
I mean, it'll be, all right.
The last thing I want to say, and I'm very serious about this, is that it's a good idea, if you can, to talk to a friend and set up maybe a buddy system. Because if one of you gets sick, knowing that someone can possibly take care of you or get you things that you need in the event that you don't have stuff.
Leave them outside your door.
Yes. You don't want to get them sick, but just someone that you can contact. It doesn't have to be like an emergency contact person, but just they know that they're prepared, you're prepared, and that you guys can have a little buddy system. And also, it's good to have close friends like that.
Because, like 25% of young men do not have a close friend. I'm serious.
Well, yeah, so this is a good way to make them.
I'm your friend.
Me too.
What about me?
He's not.
Okay. That's the prepper segment.
I'm just kidding. No, producer Young Chomsky will be available. His phone number is 634 and he will be available in the Bay Area, Northern California, up to Redding to bring you anything you need. And if you are a dude, he will suck.
Okay, with that, let's get Alexander on the phone because we got to talk Mr. Market.
Alexander Ocasio-O'Skaggs. Okay, welcome to the Finance Zone. We are joined by TrueAnon Financette, that is a female financier correspondent, Alex Skaggs, also a financial writer for Barron's, who is here to tell us about, things aren't going so hot in the old markets, are they?
No, they are not.
Yeah, Mr. Market's going a little crazy.
Yeah, and like every finance correspondent on TV also.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys saw.
No, is everyone losing their mind?
Did you see Santelli? So Rick Santelli, the CNBC guy who got famous for this big Tea Party rant, went on another one of these rants, except his whole thing was that he wanted to give everyone coronavirus all at once.
Sound advice.
In order to calm the market?
Yeah, was he just like, if we all get it and we're over it in 2 weeks, then we can get back to work?
He's like, as long as the uncertainty isn't there, it'll be fine. And I was like,
God.
Holy shit.
Jesus Christ.
We don't need a vax. We just need to calm the VIX.
Yeah. Oh, God.
You like
I
how I
don't
did
know.
that?
I don't get that joke, but Alex seemed to understand
It's terrible.
So
it's terrible.
I'm with the ladies on this one. It was fun.
That's great. And
yes, lots of volatility in the markets.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was like when we were first going to have you on, like so much has even changed in the last week. There was, I think a couple times over now, it's been the Dow's worst day.
Yeah, like ever.
Yeah.
And so like when we first were going to talk, there was this big sell-off. And so I've like been writing about markets through a few of these, and like every time it's really scary. But then I look at the numbers and it's like, okay, it's actually not that bad, like in percentage terms or whatever, it's not that big of a deal. But this time I actually had to go back and correct myself because it was the worst one since 2008.
Not a big, I don't know anything that happened big in that year.
Not a great, yeah. Well, I refinanced my homes, but
okay, well.
Oh, jeez. It's a little niche.
Yes.
More refinancing though. That'll be good for all of us.
Well, yeah. So basically, we wanted to have you on because a lot of people have been asking, like, is there a recession? There was a big article in Bloomberg that was basically like, actually, maybe we are already in a recession, but no one knows.
Yeah.
And just because it's a little unclear exactly what the markets are reacting to. And it seems like a lot of people, it seems to be continuing to react to everyone's fear of not knowing what it's reacting to, if that makes sense.
It really has kind of snowballed. And it's a little weird because I think the timing is a big factor too. Like, I feel like we had sort of, I mean, I guess the Ebola scare was pretty different because it was a lot more severe and a lot more contained. But like, we've had these sorts of scares every like 6 months maybe. But what's happening right now outside of all of that is that, like, remember in, I guess it was the end of 2017, they did the corporate tax cut. So like that was really good for companies. And so through most of 2018 and 2019, they posted like really good earnings growth.
Right.
Because it was like really good, it was basically stimulus, but for companies. And so now they're sort of out of that. Like that sort of exhausted itself. And they have a lot of debt. They are actually like really leveraged in their like supply chains and stuff.
Right.
And so there's probably going to be an earnings recession either way. And now people are like, holy shit, like on top of this earnings recession, we have this huge, pandemic, basically.
So two things are kind of happening concurrently here is that this sort of stimulus from 2017 or like whatever, the semi-stimulus from 2017 is wearing off. And then there's also just a sort of unprecedented, or at least not precedented for a long time, pandemic that's sweeping the workforce and the supply chain.
Yeah, exactly. But it's weird. I still don't quite know what to make of it, honestly, but I don't think anyone does.
Yeah, that sort of seems to be the main thing here is like nobody really knows what to do or like how to view this sort of thing.
Yeah, and it seems like the Fed is getting involved and trying to like calm things, but it doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah, Alex, could you explain what's going on with that? Because remember, we we're not all big money brain ladies here. Some of us are dumb, but penny rich males. And so let's can you explain to the fellas what the fuck Liz just said and what you guys are talking about?
So the Federal Reserve, as I'm sure everyone knows, they set interest rates. They're basically like, this is how much it costs everyone to borrow. Everyone borrows at some spread to the interest rate that the Fed sets. And so like a couple of years ago, they were raising rates because they were like, oh, the economy is really good. We don't want inflation, even though I'll say there's no inflation anywhere. And then, so they've raised rates for like a little while. But then on Tuesday, they ended up cutting like 50 base, like half a percentage point all at once. And the funny thing about that was that before the Fed cut, everyone was like, oh yeah, the Fed's going to cut. This is going to be great. And the market like rallied on that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Well, and then after the Fed cut, people were like, oh my God, what does the Fed know? And then the market started selling off. Like, what are they seeing that we don't see? And I was like, I'm confused. Yeah.
Yeah, so Fed rates, I mean, yeah, you brought it up, but it is a great time to refinance your mortgage or even your student loans if you're so inclined.
I don't have either of those. So what does that mean? That means just like to sort of borrow again or to like
Basically to renegotiate the interest rates at which
Gotcha.
you're currently borrowing.
So-
Because the new rates have lowered so much, you can get a better deal, but it involves like, a new contract basically.
So like if I had student loans of whatever $1,500 a month with an interest rate of 2%, I don't know how much. I didn't go to college. Don't know how much they are. I could go to whatever my loan guy right now and be like, listen, I'll pay you $1,600 a month, but the interest rate is 0.1%,
Probably not that low, but
0.2.
well, yeah, that's the general
idea. Yeah. Okay, I'm
yeah.
getting that. Yeah. Wow. That seems. Well, that doesn't seem so bad.
I think a lot. I mean, just anecdotally, I think a lot of people are going to take advantage of that. But I don't know what that's going to mean for the market. And I guess that's like my other question is, and like you said, it's like tough to suss out exactly what it's responding to because it does seem like there are some real supply chain concerns in terms of like manufacturing, but also like for example, I know that everyone knows that there's no hand sanitizer anywhere and there's no masks anywhere. And I know that like the US can make those masks, but all of the materials to make the mask are in China. So it's like all these sort of different kind of shocks going around. Not that that's exactly what the market, those specific things are exactly what the market's responding to, but it's like hard to tell if it's responding to genuine like supply chain shock or just people's uncertainty and volatility.
Yeah. So I think like the supply chain thing like should have been fixed by the Fed, right? Because if a company has to get stuff from somewhere else, they could like borrow to cover the cost of getting the supplies from somewhere else and whatever, right? Like I feel like people are kind of over that, even though I do think it was like a real issue for a little while. But I think what people are freaked out about is that they think people are gonna like all stay home forever or something. Which like there have been some stories about this, but like I don't know, like I can't self-quarantine. Like I have to go to my office. Like it would be nice to self-quarantine for the next 5 months or whatever. But I just think it's a lot of people who work like white collar jobs who think that they're going to stay home forever. So they're like, oh, well, clearly every person's going to do this.
Exactly.
Anything.
Yeah, that's a big thing because it's like, so for instance, like, they have in San Francisco, they're asking like basically old people to stay home as much as possible. And I don't think that they'll be able to do the sort of I don't think they have the will to do the sort of quarantine that they'll do in maybe other countries in America. Yeah. But it does raise like an interesting point. Like what if, millions of people do get coronavirus and, obviously the majority of the cases are mild, but there is a large amount of cases that are serious, but not deadly, which would necessitate staying. I mean, all of those necessitate 100% of the cases necessitate staying home from work for a little while. So you have a bunch of people staying home from work, not only not making money, possibly getting fired in some cases. I mean, I'm sure that there'll be some motions against that, but it's what's going to happen in some cases. But also like being short on rent, or if millions of people end up in the hospitals, as is a possibility. I have a feeling they'll probably make the vaccine free in a lot of cases, or not the vaccine, but like whatever the testing. And if there is a vaccine, develop the vaccine. But like the hospital stays won't be free, and so that has huge financial ripples, right?
Exactly. And so I think people are worried about the potential effects from that on like, people just going out and buying things.
Yeah.
Like sort of basic consumption type stuff. And I think some of the insurers are pretty leveraged too. So like I think we talked a little bit about this last time actually, but health insurers have a decent amount of debt, but like life insurers also have a ton of debt. So like, of course, my mind goes to like the darkest possible outcome.
Oh gosh,
course,
right.
Yeah.
And if they're paying out and they don't have the ability to do so.
Well, could you explain by leverage? Like, what do you mean by leveraged in that case?
So the health insurers, I don't know as much as I should probably about the health insurers specifically, but for the life insurers, I know specifically, they basically have all this money, right? And they have a pool of money, and they're like, okay, we're just going to invest it. And the issue is that interest rates are really low, and their assumptions for returns are like, oh, we think we're going to earn like 5% or like 6% every year. And so they're putting their money into like bonds that aren't very good quality, sort of on the assumption that like, oh, well, like business is growing, the economy is growing, everything's fine. Like the losses from these things won't be bad if it turns sour. But like, we've never actually seen corporate debt be this high in our economy, like ever. So,
and that seems like a not so great combination with what's going on right now, especially if a bunch of people do die or a bunch of people do basically have to get paid out on their health insurance.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's an interesting moment because, like, for so long, the stock market, like, kind of what you're saying, corporate debt, and, you know, you've got the explosion of corporate debt, and, you know, we've talked about it. It's just sort of like debt buying new debt to buy new debt, right? Just kind of like pyramid schemes of debt, including, you know, massive stock buybacks in order to inflate corporate earnings reports. And you have this like instance where for the first time the market is actually responding to the real economy, or like potential of the real, like, and by real economy I mean like actual like labor force participation, like real rates of labor force participation and consumption, like you mentioned, like people dying, like real economic factors and not financial kind of instruments. And so it's like this real like rubber meets the road moment almost, it feels like, or it has the potential to be, where it's like this injection of, like, for lack of a better term, like the real into this like environment of complete fictitious speculation.
And
which is
way,
like pretty intense.
Yeah, no, it is. It's well, that's why it's freaking out, right? Like that's why markets are going insane, because they're like, oh shit, we actually have to think about like real people instead of like how much can this company borrow to like literally pay money to its investors, because that's been going on. They've been like, okay, let me borrow money from debt markets and then give it to our shareholders.
I know. I saw like Elon Musk tweeted something where he was like, coronavirus is not a big deal. And I was like, someone call the SEC because Elon's back trying to manipulate the market.
I mean, that's probably what that is.
I mean,
So what are like some scenarios we're looking at? Like, what will this mean for like in real terms for like the man on the street or the woman in the financier's office but not like as the financier, like she's like a normal worker. Like what does this mean? Like what are the effects like we'll actually see from what we're talking about right now?
I mean, it's so hard to tell. And I think part of the problem with that is that like companies aren't gonna be doing as much as they would have been normally. Like, I don't know, this might be a little strong, but I tend to feel like our economy right now is in sort of like a suicide pact with corporate America.
Oh yeah.
Because they're the only ones actually giving people jobs.
Right.
And there's no real public sector to speak of. And so they're like, okay, well, corporate profits have to keep going because they're the only people, or they're the only entities that are actually paying people.
Yeah.
So when that stops, like, what happens? Like layoffs, you get, I think they've already seen some. Like we were talking about Boeing earlier. They've put a bunch of employees on furlough at some of their suppliers.
Yeah, and the airlines too. I mean,
it's a massive sector of the economy too.
Huge. I mean, just travel in general, you know, and like that's going to be affected by this. Absolutely. I mean, they might not cancel flights, but those industries are certainly going to. I mean, there was already an airline closed in Europe, which was like a Ryanair type airline, like shuttered after like 4 days after people started getting corona out there. Which does not speak to great about their margins.
Yeah, no, I mean, and you know they're taking it. I mean, it sounds stupid, but it's like, okay, well, Trump's got literally just like, you know, Mnuchin and Kudlow up there, like they, you know, their first concern is like what that's going to be, and I think there's a reason for that. It's because it's actually pretty serious.
Yeah. And the thing is that, like, because everything is so financialized, like, the market does actually sadly echo through into like what these companies actually do, which means it echoes through into people's real jobs.
Yeah.
Which, like, because everything is so tied together. I was looking at, it was like one of these, Wall Street research guys' notes, and they were saying that apparently at some point in the high yield bond market, which is like Michael Milken created, a funny guy, but if the sell-off gets bad enough, then interest rates will rise high enough that companies actually won't be able to afford to pay back their debt, and then
and then everyone's like, no one knows what happens in that case.
Exactly. That's the thing that sticks out about all this is there's like a lot of different futures on this that we can't figure out where we're going, and we don't know what happens when we go to any of them.
I know. I'm like thinking right now about Rumsfeld for the unknown knowns.
Oh yeah,
and the known unknowns.
People gave him a lot of shit about that quote, but we're looking at it right now.
Kind of. I mean, yeah. I think too. Like, there's a and again, like you say, how these financial markets have ripples into like actual real economy, like what I'm saying, like real people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's totally right. And one thing that I always think about too is there's a great paper by Pavlina Chernova, who's an economist at the Levy Institute. Yes, she's great.
Okay.
And there's such a great paper about reconceptualizing unemployment as basically, I think, as a virus, which is an interesting way to think of it, because she says that the way that it spreads, like once there's like an infection, basically, in a town or a city of unemployment, that it spreads to other sectors as a contagion, and it can't be controlled. So, like, unemployment has these mass ripple effects throughout other sectors of the economy. So if you have massive job loss, like, because, like you say, these huge corporations, their debt bubble pops and they don't know what to do, or not even the huge corporations, but like even the little guys that are beneath them that are leveraged into those big corporations, right? Like that unemployment will eat into real estate, will eat into housing, will eat into education, will eat into, like, it moves through and infects other sectors, even non-economic, what we would traditionally think of as non-economic sectors.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's sort of why, like, everyone, like, you see, like, airlines and, like, cruise stocks are, like, getting absolutely killed. But it's not just them. It's, like, Apple, too. And people are like, well, why Apple? And it's like, well, if you end up having a mass unemployment wave again, which, like, God hope, I really hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, totally.
Well, like you mentioned, I mean, it's not only a virus in that it spreads, but also that it's, like, so bad for people. Like, you can actually look and see, like, health outcomes get so bad. I mean, obviously,
absolutely,
healthcare is related to work now, but sort of all of it together is just really brutal.
Yeah, I mean, and even you see, like, I mean, I know a lot of people were dunking on people getting bummed about South by Southwest getting canceled, and I don't really care about South by Southwest as a thing, but it is true that, like, that city depends on that revenue. And, you're going to see it even more and more. I mean, they're talking about canceling, say, like, March Madness. That's like
Comic-Con.
I mean, they got to cancel that.
Yeah,
just
to begin with.
Yeah, just in general. I mean, but they'll probably cancel, like, Burning Man. Like, I mean, and it sounds like it's really dumb or whatever, and it's like, who cares? But also, it does have ripple effects that, again, you start to see in other sectors, and not just in the, like, headdress creating artisanal sectors.
I'm the first guy to call for South by Southwest to be canceled because my mistress did once grab the Weeknd's penis in a bathroom at a show there.
Oh gosh!
But like it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy because these things like do bring in a lot of money for. Like, it's like I don't even know. I've been thinking about it because like I have friends. I'm in the Longshore Union, and I have friends that work on the docks in here up north, and I was talking to them and like, yeah, it's like I mean. There's certain holidays, I guess, and like it's the time of year that shipping slows down to begin with. But like the way our supply chain works is it's very fragile, right? And like there are these certain sort of choke points. The docks are one of them. And there's not. I mean, some of these ships' crews have been quarantined for 14 days, so that like this whole it's difficult to like get stuff on the shelves in time. So there'll be empty shelves places, which will cause panic, and which will people won't have.
Well, you've already seen it's like now everyone's like freaking out buying a billion things of toilet paper just because like 10 people did it.
Which is bullshit because you can just use your hand in some water.
Oh my gosh.
You can. They do in much of the world. So, but like it's. I mean, is that so? You mentioned the supply chain earlier. Like, what's going on with that, Alex?
Oh man. So this is another weird thing that I actually think has been for like the past few years undercovered, and I'm trying to write more about it, but it's kind of hard because it's like really opaque. A lot of companies actually have started to like extend, or I guess forever, companies have been extending each other credit. Like within their supply chain, it's like, okay, you don't have to pay me right away for this thing. You can pay me in 2 weeks.
Oh.
Yeah, and then they get a bank to sort of sit in the middle and kind of finance that loan. Yeah, of course.
Economies rock, dude.
Right? There's a lot of rents that can be charged here.
Gotta love it.
Yeah. But what's interesting about it is that they're now actually taking those like loans, those like little loans, and securitizing them.
No.
What's that mean? Wait, what's that mean? I don't like that reaction. What's that mean?
So they're basically taking them, a bunch of like loans that companies make to each other, and they're like really short-term loans, right? They're supposed to be risk-free, by the way. That's never a good sign.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, would they be AAA maybe?
I think so. But they're taking them all and they're sort of packing them into these like bonds that they're then selling to investors.
Wait, this sounds familiar.
Right?
Hold on. I feel like I've heard this song before.
Yeah. That is sort of what they did with mortgages before the financial crisis.
Right.
So.
And this is something that's going like in our like Walmart's doing this.
Yeah. A lot of big telecom companies are doing this.
And a lot of, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the things that go into the products in these supply chains are made in China.
Yes.
And I know the trade war has been affecting, there's been issues with the supply chain and that, but so what happens if like the product doesn't come through then? Like what happens if nothing comes in on a ship?
Well, it's a good question, right? Because I think that part of what can happen is that like when things like this happen, like in 2015 and 16, when oil prices fell off a cliff, like sometimes banks realize that like, okay, so it's not good for any of us if we like actually collect on this loan, which is interesting because they don't tend to do that with like individual people.
No.
So they do this thing called extend and pretend, which is basically say like, okay, well, we're going to give you another 2 or 3 months to pay off this thing that you were supposed to pay last month. Because if you default, then like people get really freaked out and investors take losses and it's actually worse for everybody. So I think that's why people are like, okay, as long as this ends in the first half of this year, we're okay. But then if you see it extend into the third quarter, the fourth quarter, like things might start looking pretty bad.
Huh.
So this could be like potentially, well, I'm not trying to cause like freak people out here, but this could have some pretty like psychotic effects on our economy, like beyond I think what we're sort of prepared for.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, lots of fun, right?
Will this affect podcasts?
Podcasts are the future, man.
Oh,
I gotta start one. Ask
you should.
Yeah, they're very lean.
Yeah.
We do get a new microphone and headphone set for each of us every episode. Just it's like a face mask. We just gotta get rid of it. But I mean, so even for like medical supplies, though, that's like Liz mentioned that
and
earlier.
Pharmaceuticals as well.
Yeah,
that's
so
a big issue.
That I mean, it could. I mean, that market will be pretty badly affected by this as well, too.
Potentially.
Yeah, I think it already. I mean, the supply chain is definitely being affected.
Yeah.
I think, well, it's funny because like the healthcare industry has been like investors haven't really been very bullish on it because our guy, Bernie, is thinking about getting rid of a lot of it. Which,
yes, respect.
Exactly. But I think that because of that, like people aren't so worried about the healthcare companies because they're like, oh, we kind of expected this.
Yeah.
This is all like in the market. So another interesting sort of like, I don't know, sub story here is the oil companies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because like oil prices have once again fallen off a cliff, and a lot of these small like drillers and stuff in Texas and out there in the US have
stopped.
a lot of debt.
Have they stopped production?
I'm not sure. People are looking at drill counts and stuff. It's a little outside of my like realm of market.
Yeah, totally.
But they do have a lot of debt, and I think they are worried that like this might just be it for that industry, which like you know, on one hand, like yeah,
Oh my
on the other,
gosh.
it employs people, so it's sort of like
Yeah, that employs a lot of people.
Yeah. I know. I got friends
And it's
that,
pretty much like all precarious labor as well.
yeah, like you go out and work for like 4 weeks somewhere, you get addicted to Oxycontin. One of your friends dies because something falls. I'm literally just recounting what happened.
I
to my
know.
friend
It's
out
such
there.
an awful industry.
It's horrible.
It's horrible.
It destroys you.
By the way, thanks, Obama.
Yeah.
Big expansion of that shit under his.
Very cool.
Must watch.
We got to wrap up in a second, Alex. So what? Give me some wisdom here. I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, my head in my hand, and a snub nose 38 in the other one. Possibly going to use it on our producer Liz and then myself, unless you talk me out. What is going to happen?
well. I think that there is a big opportunity, we can say, because not for investing, actually. No, because like you said, a lot of these industries that are getting hit the hardest are the ones that don't do like they're not like real world economic, like they don't have anything.
It's it's one of those things that like when someone like a layman or even not a layman like you look at this, you're like this is fake, like this is just a money factory.
Yeah, exactly. And like it makes a case for, let's say, a different policy around say jobs and public sector employment, because it sort of demonstrates that we are kind of in a suicide pact with corporate America, and if they go down, people get fired, and like you need something there to sort of provide other types of employment. We just haven't been very creative about what kinds people are interested in, or like what people are willing to pay for.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yes. So you're saying it creates a political opportunity.
Yes. And I'll say Paulina Chernova has a really good stuff on that.
She does. She absolutely does.
So there could be like a WPA for podcasters or something like that.
Yeah, that's what it means. WPA, podcasting.
Yeah. White Podcasters of America. Just kidding. That's a dig at podcasters, not at our, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Can't wait to have you back on again when things get really crazy.
Yes, and we'll hopefully see you soon, unless we're all arrested by men in hazmat suits carrying submachine guns.
Fingers crossed.
On the streets of New York City.
Yes, I'll see you guys soon.
All right. See you, Alex. Thank you.
Bye.
Hi, thank you.
That's terrible. Okay. Well, I don't feel any better.
I feel way better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's just because I did some Sudafed while she was talking. No. So this has been another wonderful episode of TrueAnon, the Corona Cast. My name, of course, is Dr. Singa Belden. I'm joined by
Liz.
And, of course, my faithful lion of Syria, Bashar al-Young Chomsky. I don't know. I'm stretching.
Okay, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.